Welcome everyone, this is episode 18, and today the topic that I would like to tackle is post-breakup strategies.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we've both had the pleasure or unpleasure of a lot of breakups, probably more so me than you, but you definitely had some as well. So Trevor, from your perspective, talk to us about the pain, and much of it self-inflicted pain, that happened after your breakups.
Yeah. I think I want to start off with one of the episodes we did with my daughter, Jade.
Yes.
And if any of our listeners listened to that one, it was like, well, you started dating or what? We kind of got hung up on a time frame, and I started scratching my head, and it was getting way too close to, it was getting really personal, right?
Yeah, I was like, Trevor? Do you want to clarify?
and I was chewing on that because I had to wrestle through it, and I realized I did. Like my wife had filed for divorce, and then I came to Texas, and I was only here in Texas for 3 months, and I realized I started looking to date.
Right.
3 months after. And I think the reason I wrestled when Jade said, hey, it was a lot sooner than you said, is because when I look back, I go, did I really do that? Like, certainly I would not have done that.
Yeah.
I could not have done that.
A good Christian doesn't do that.
or a sensible man.
Yeah.
And, oh man, I had to look at the reality and work through the calendar and start thinking about it. And Jay was right. I dated about 3 months after I got to Texas, or I started to look to date about 3 months after I got here, after leaving Washington.
That's after your divorce was signed, or?
Yeah. So, well, not maybe technically. I don't know. I think it was actually after my wife filed for divorce. It was supposed to happen, and then some paperwork or something she said didn't process and work. So then it got delayed another 2 months.
Right.
So I think the divorce got delayed, but I started looking. I was here.
That didn't stop you.
It was like, I'm here. She's there. She said, sign here or I get a lawyer. And it was just messy, right? So 3 months after, I did look to start dating again. And the reason I had a hard time reconciling that in the conversation with Jade, I don't know what episode that was. Do you remember?
So it would have been 7, 8, or 9. 7,
8, or 9. I was like,
I think it was 8.
It just sounded crazy. But here's what we're talking about today. After, the post-breakup, it's crazy. And if we think it's not, something probably is wrong with us. Because it should be crazy. Because you make a commitment to a wife that says, till death do us part, for better or for worse. And if you come out of post-divorce celebrating and actually being normal and carrying on in a sound mind, hey, that would be great. But then I would have to question, were you just like prepping for this all along and you were ready for it and like no big deal?
Like a contract expiration.
Like it doesn't bother you?
Yeah.
It should bother you.
Yeah. That means there was no emotional attachment.
Yeah. So, for me, it was, look at, how do I deal with this? Now, I will look you in the eye and say, God was working in my life all through the messy parts of life.
Right.
He doesn't exempt me from the messy parts of life, but He says He will be with me through the messy parts of life. Right? And so, I realized, I think I was a little bit relationship codependent.
Yeah, so I'm just like curious, like when you started that relationship, did you hear that little voice in the back of your head, I shouldn't be doing it, or you just felt like that was the right thing to do?
Dude, I think I was so numb.
Oh, yeah.
Numb. I didn't feel anything. Like, I really didn't. It was...
You were just reactive. Need relationship.
I think so. I was numb. I was emotionally numb because I never planned on being divorced. And yet there I was being divorced, right? Yeah. After 20 years, or almost 20 years, I think. I was numb. And then the whole thing with, not seeing my daughters, the thing they placed in my head from surgery wasn't functioning well. I was numb, emotionally numb. And what we're talking about today, handling the effects or post-divorce, like, how do we deal with it? Here's what I've observed, and I'll just tell you from my story, we probably don't deal with it as good as we should.
Yeah.
I didn't go to pornography because I had just been freed from that.
Yeah.
I didn't go to strip clubs. I didn't go to prostitutes. Wow. I didn't get drunk. I didn't get high. I actually listened to a lot of good, healthy things on YouTube from different great Christian speakers. Rick Warren, for example.
Yeah, the pastor, yeah.
Matt Chandler had a series on a beautiful design and many other things that I'd listened to try to be healthy and strong. But what I didn't realize was my need for a relationship. Again, it goes back to having the woman affirm us. So having a woman in my life should make me feel better. So if Jade is listening to this, I started dating about 3 months after I got here back to Texas when I arrived here, or looking to date.
Yeah.
And that's how I handled it. It was dumb. It's the crazy thing, Merrick. I knew it was dumb. Like if I would have looked at it from how would I counsel a person in this situation perspective, I would say that's a dumb idea. But man, when you are in those shoes, you
need a fix.
You need somebody to tell you it's a dumb idea. And I had lost a lot of friends during the divorce. I mean, I don't know about you, but I hear, and it's true, I think a lot of guys, when you go through divorce, the people that were associated to you or that were friends, they all all the dynamics change, and there's some degree of they keep a distance.
Yeah, they have to pick sides.
They have to pick sides. And so anyways, it did not bode well for me. I made that dumb mistake. It was my way of handling post-divorce. It was my means of, it was the drug, if you will. The excitement of a new relationship, and this is going to be better, and this is going to be just what I want.
The grass is greener on this side.
Grass is green, yes! And I can just tell you, it was not good. And I'll elaborate on that story, but let's hear.
Oh, yeah.
Can you share a little bit? And then I'll tell you how that evolved and maybe some better ways of managing.
Well, it just kind of makes me feel awkward because it's like, to me, the way you handle the divorce is like a saint compared to mine.
Oh, dude, it was messy for me. I'm sure it's messy for you. It's all a mess.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that made my divorce tougher was the fact that my wife cheated on me.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot of, obviously, divorce is painful as is, but, with that added twist of betrayal that just took it to a whole nother depth. So me, I was like shell-shocked. Just like a bomb blew off, and I just had this like ringing in my ears. I mean, I was just reactive that whole time. Pornography was a big thing. I mean, back then I was a pornography watcher, and it just kind of took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to feel something or have a break from the pain. I think I don't think it was so much about the pornography per se. It was just to have a break from the pain, just not because I didn't know how to cope with that pain constructively. The best that I could do is to try to drown it out with some kind of a stimuli. So in my case, it was pornography, a lot of drinking. I did a lot of drinking, and I didn't sleep a lot. I mean, it was just, I was kind of like you, but on steroids, because I was just very, very reactive. I was just like, need some stimulus, need some break.
Right.
And I was just kind of caught between finding something to numb out the pain, or I was just like in the pain. I was like, how could she have done this? How could she have done this? In fact, there was a lot of people that I talked to. A good friend of mine, Sylvia, man, I talked to her like hours every single day. And the easiest way to summarize that conversation was like, how could she have done this? How could she have done this? How, I was just like, it's kind of interesting looking back at that time, because like knowing what I know now, it's like, it just stuns me. How could I have been stuck for so long? But yet back then, that's like the only way I could deal with it, was either numb it out or just keep asking myself, how could this happen? How could this happen? Because in my mind, that is the last thing that I expected. And so when it happened, it almost like shook everything upside down, and I just lost the ability to really understand the world, because the things that I thought fundamentally was true, that my wife would always, no matter what happens, at least she'll be faithful. got turned upside down, and that just destroyed me.
It seems like when we're going through it, so our world is spinning out of control, right? Mine was, yours was. And then we look for something we can control.
Yeah.
To bring a sense of, oh yeah, I'm in control. I got this.
Yeah.
But the reality is we're just masking the pain, the loss, and the sense of failure, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And we're masking it. So whether it's pornography or alcohol or, for me, another relationship, to jump right back into one, I would probably venture to say you would agree we didn't handle it the best.
No, it's just, you know, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, the marriage was all about me. It was validation.
Oh, yeah.
And so to me, that was the first time in my life when my achievement blew up in my face. And that just shocked me, because I was like, hey, if I go to good school, I get a good job, all these things will pay off. And they did at the time.
Sure.
And to me, that's what marriage was. Hey, if I get a good woman, she will just tell me I'm the best and I'm perfect.
Yeah.
And it blew up on me. And to me, I was so in the world that I just sought all these worldly things to either validate me or at least take my pain away for a moment.
Mm-hmm. It's, you know, it's humbling when both you and I, here we are having a pretty vulnerable discussion of, you know, might be in the top 3 the messiest times of our life.
By far. No doubt.
And like for me, it's probably number 1. And we're having this conversation. How do we recover? How do we deal with post-divorce, post-relationship? And for me, like we said, it was another relationship. For you, it was those things. How do we actually, like I said to you, how do we actually go through this in a healthy way? The reality is some relationships fail. I hope they don't, but they do.
Yeah.
I wish, you know, that both of us could have been healthy guys, had healthy relationships, made healthy choices, all this, but we didn't. Yeah. So how do we deal with the reality of this broken world that we live in, the broken world that I participate in? Well, how's the best way for guys to get through this? And like I said, if I was sitting down with a guy counseling him or giving him input, I would say, dude, stay away from women for 12 months. Figure out what went wrong in your marriage.
Yeah.
What was your crap that you brought into the marriage? It's fine. Acknowledge the broken parts of your wife or the ex-wife, but don't blame her. Yeah. It's probably more on you than her anyways. It was your responsibility as a husband if you look at it from a biblical perspective. And so stay away from another relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I took some divorce classes and I could get the formula wrong, but one of the things they told us is for every 3 years of marriage, you should have 1 year off from a relationship. I think that was the ratio. And I was like, I did the math. You know, I was really married for 4 years, so that would have been like year and some change. And to me, that felt like an eternity, you know? So it's funny that I knew all these things, and I knew that to be true, but the fact of the matter was, when the temptation hit, it was all for nothing. You know, the logic went by the side, and just the emotion, the high, you know, the desire of the high of a relationship, or even, you know, and the relationship, sometimes relationship with my laptop, with pornography.
Yeah, the fantasy relationship, right?
Exactly. That to me, it just swept all the logic away. It just, I mean, I was like a slave. You know, I was like, you know.
Dude, when you said 3 years, you should stay single for 3 years for each year you were married, I'm like, dude, I would not have come seen you to counsel me. Like, because that would have been like all 6 or 7 years or something.
That's
for
like
me.
for other losers. You know?
Like 6 or 7 years single. Are you crazy? At this age, I'll be dead. Whether it's 3 years per 1 year of marriage, I don't know if I would.
No, it's the other way, right? It's 1 year per 3 years of marriage.
Oh, yeah, 1 year for 3 years. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily put a formula on it. Mm-hmm. I would certainly say at least take a year to work through your stuff. Yeah. And really dig deep. Like, where did the wheels fall off the marriage? Why did it? What was my contribution? What was the ex's? But I'm not blaming the ex. I'm looking at my own, because if I was leading well, I probably could have worked through and helped and be a support to the ex. Yeah. And maybe we could have survived and have a healthy, thriving marriage, right? I think, though, if we don't do that, we find something else to control.
Yeah.
The things that we talked about to replace that void, that brokenness, that acknowledgement of failure, recognition of it.
Yeah.
And if we were to sit down with men, I think you and I both would say, look, you've got to take time to work through this. What is it? And start identifying what are the issues that you brought into the marriage.
Yeah, because I think it's very tempting for us men to point finger at somebody. But typically, at least for me, the last thing in my mind was to look at myself. Because in my book, I thought I did all the right things, especially since my wife cheated on me. In my mind, that validated me. That made me clear that, hey, obviously, she's the one that cheated, so that means I was perfect. And it took me a long time to realize that, hey, between that marriage and then subsequent dating relationships, the only common denominator is myself.
Yeah. Wow. We went deep, right?
Yeah.
We're back in the submarine here again.
Yeah.
But it is ourself, and I think that's the hardest part to acknowledge.
Yeah.
It was my failure. It was my divorce. It was on me to lead, to love well, to serve well, and not look to my wife to validate me. I know we both have talked about this before. As men, so often in this culture, we look for our wives to validate us.
Yeah.
And when we expect and look for our wives to validate us, things will deteriorate quickly, I think.
Because I think in the beginning, during the infatuation phase, that's kind of natural. And at least that wasn't my mistake. I assumed that's what the marriage would look like. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny looking back. It's like, how stupid could you be? But that was me. And I was very well educated. And it happened to me. It's just one of those things that to this day, looking backwards, it's like, how could you possibly think that this was how it's going to be? But that was me.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
Exactly.
And which really explains why we're doing what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are so many men that are experiencing what we went through, and unfortunately, and we really want to impact that.
Yeah.
I think both you and I would probably say we don't want men to go through this, especially when they have children.
Yeah.
That we really don't want them to go through it, but when they have children, we really, really don't want them to go through this because of what we call collateral damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we're being so vulnerable and sharing this stuff of, it is true. When we go through a relationship that's been terminated by us or another, take time, evaluate what went right, what went wrong.
Yeah.
And really, ultimately, what was your part in it? Don't blame your ex.
Yeah. As tempting as it is. as true as it may be.
Yeah. What was my part? Where did I fail? And I think that's the hardest part for us men to do.
Yeah.
But if we can get there, it's the greatest step to healing. How much time do we have left?
We got a couple of minutes. One thing that I'd like to add is
please.
maybe, it's kind of like what you said in different words, is that I believe, and I think somebody said it, so I don't want to make it my quote, but relationships are best mirrors of ourselves.
Ow.
So, it's like, I don't want any relationship to fail, but it's a fact. And so when it does, the best thing is to realize, hey, what am I doing that attracts those people? Because for me, when I step back, I realized that there were certain characteristics in women that I perceived to be attractive, but ultimately they're the ones that made my pain even more intense. It was a nice beginning, but very painful ending, But the funny thing is like, the more I looked at it, it's like different person, same outcome. Different person, same outcome. Different outcome. So that if I can, leave you with like the simplest piece of advice from my, stupid tax, if you will, we talk about stupid taxes.
Yeah, I paid a lot of it.
Is look at relationships, especially the fair relationships, as a reflection of yourself.
I like that.
And when you do that, you'll be amazed. It's a very humbling experience, and it's not going to be pretty. But once you make that realization, then finally you have a true picture, and then you make a switch. Because otherwise, how can you change if you don't know what you're changing from?
So how about next episode? Mm-hmm. Because somebody very close to you brought up a really neat point that I'd like to discuss with you.
Okay, I don't know what it is, but I'm curious. So we'll take out the listeners for a ride.
So I rebounded.
Mm-hmm.
I got married, had the marriage annulled.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because it was like, there was a lot more to it. We can talk about that on some episode if you like.
Too, yeah.
Okay. But I'd like to talk about so I remarried in a healthy way this time, right?
Yeah.
how does my current wife feel when I talk about I wish I never was divorced? That's a great point, and it's
yeah.
Let's talk about that next episode.
Let's save the fire for the next one.
Sounds good.
Thank you, brother. Always pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us. God bless, and we're definitely going to get deeper next episode, so stay tuned.